All right, so today we're going to help you get ready for a Geographic Information Systems Specialist interview,
Yeah,
which is a pretty cool job.
absolutely. A very cool job.
And to help us, we have a bunch of RoleCatcher resources, like career guides, sample interview questions,
That's right.
all that good stuff.
Yeah. So let's dive into this deep dive.
Okay, so let's just jump right in then.
Sounds good.
One thing I found really interesting about this field is that it's not, just making maps.
Right.
It's like you're
Say
taking
you're taking data
complex data.
and making it into something useful for engineers,
Yeah.
for governments,
Mhm.
even for people who manage reservoirs.
Right.
It's really fascinating how it's used in so many different ways.
Yeah, that's right. And the RoleCatcher Career Guide actually highlighted that it's a really good job to have right now,
Yeah.
especially in oil and gas.
Especially in oil and gas, the outlook is really positive.
Yeah. So good salary, good job security.
Exactly. High demand, which means that salary is going to be competitive.
But first, you got to get through that interview.
Right, exactly. You got to nail that interview.
So that's why we're here to help.
And that's where we come in. We're going to walk you through some of those tough questions that they might ask you and give you some insider tips from the career guide.
Yeah, and even some tips on how to use RoleCatcher's AI
Oh, yeah, definitely. We'll sprinkle that in.
to give you a little bit of an edge.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's just start with a really classic question.
Okay.
Can you explain the difference between raster and vector data?
Yeah?
And this actually shows up in both the interview guide and the interview questions repository.
Yeah, a very common question. You'll definitely get asked this one.
So how would you approach this?
So this is where you really want to show off that you understand GIS, the foundation of it.
Yeah.
So think about raster data, like a photograph,
Okay.
like a digital photograph.
Okay.
It's all about the pixels.
Got it.
And each pixel has a value. So you could have a value for elevation or temperature,
Okay.
or even the color of the ground.
Got it.
So you could have like a satellite image that has different colors for different elevations.
Mm-hmm.
That would be raster data.
So that's good for showing gradual change.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's really good for showing gradual change over an area.
Okay, so what about vector data then?
Vector data is different.
Okay.
It's more like a drawing.
Okay.
It's made up of points and lines and polygons.
Okay.
So think about like a road map.
Mhm.
It'll have very specific streets and buildings,
Got it.
very clearly defined features and boundaries.
Okay.
That's vector data.
So if you were like planning utility lines or something,
Yeah,
you
exactly.
would use vector data.
Yeah, you'd want to use vector data for that.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So we have the definitions, but how do we make this answer really stand out?
Well, you don't want to just define the terms.
Oh, right.
You want to show that you understand how they're used. So you might say something like, raster data is great for things like temperature gradients or elevation changes, but vector data is better for things like roads and boundaries.
Got it.
You really want to connect it back to the real world.
Perfect. And also you want to, use some examples from your own experience.
Yes, definitely.
If you've got a project where you had to decide
Right.
between raster and vector data.
Exactly, and explain why you chose one over the other.
Talk about that.
That's a great way to show, you can apply these concepts.
Yeah.
And while we're talking about applying concepts,
Yeah.
the career guide had a really good tip.
Okay.
It said, make sure you stay updated on new GIS technologies.
Makes sense.
Because the field is always changing,
Right.
and they want to see that you're...
They want people who are eager to learn.
Exactly. They want people who are eager to learn.
Okay, so what about follow-up questions?
Oh, yeah. You should definitely expect follow-up questions.
Okay, like what?
Well, they might ask you.
To talk about specific projects where you used raster or vector data
Okay.
and what challenges you faced.
Yeah.
Or they might ask you about the software that you use to process that data.
Okay.
So be ready to talk about that.
That actually leads perfectly into the next question.
What with that?
What experience do you have with GIS software, and which ones are you familiar with?
Yeah, that's a big one.
This is where you can really
This is your time to shine.
show them what you know.
Yes, show off your technical skills.
Yeah.
But don't just list off a bunch of software names.
Right.
Like just saying ArcGIS or QGIS,
yeah.
that's not enough.
Don't just say, I know this.
Right. You want to go deeper.
Yeah.
You want to talk about the specific tools and functions that you've used.
Using those programs.
Yes, within those programs.
Okay.
So, for example, you could say something like, in ArcGIS, I've used the Spatial Analyst extension
Okay.
for terrain analysis and then Network Analyst extension.
For figuring out the best transportation routes.
See, that's way better.
Yeah. You're showing them that you know how to use the tools.
You're not just saying that you know it.
Exactly.
You're showing that you can apply it.
You're showing you can apply it to real-world problems.
Give a specific example.
Yes. Always give specific examples.
Yeah, don't just say, I've used this tool.
Right.
Talk about a project.
Right. Talk about a project.
And how you use that tool.
Exactly, and how you got results.
Yeah.
Now, be ready for them to follow up.
Okay.
They might ask you to go deeper into your experience with a certain software or a certain tool within a certain software. So be ready to talk about the challenges you faced and how you overcame them.
Okay, so we should probably mention RoleCatcher here.
Oh, yeah. This is a great place to bring up RoleCatcher.
So how can that help?
Well, their AI can actually analyze your answers to these software questions.
Oh, wow.
And tell you what you could do better.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, it's really helpful.
Right.
And it can even suggest keywords that might stand out to employers.
That's really cool.
It's like having a personal coach.
Yeah.
Helping you fine-tune your answers.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on, let's talk about a question that really lets you tell a story.
Okay, I like those.
Yeah, this one is, describe a complex GIS project that you've worked on and the challenges that you faced.
Yeah, I love this question.
Oh, this one's really good because you can show off not just your technical skills, but also
problem-solving skills.
how you solve problems.
Yeah, and how you handle pressure. So for this one, you really want to pick a project where you had to get creative.
Okay.
And where you had to overcome some obstacles.
Yeah.
And of course, where you got a good result in the end.
Yeah. And I think it's important to talk about what went wrong.
Yes, don't be afraid to talk about what went wrong.
Yeah.
Interviewers actually like to see that you can learn from your mistakes.
That you're honest.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so what kind of follow-up questions might they ask about this project?
Oh, they could ask you anything.
Like?
They might ask you about the specific tools or the techniques you use or how you worked with other people on the project. They might even ask you to, like, put a number on the impact of your work.
So quantify it.
Yeah, quantify it. Like, did you save time or money?
Got it.
Did you help make a better decision?
Got it. So be ready to provide specifics.
Yes, be specific, give examples.
Yeah.
And RoleCatcher can actually help you here, too.
Okay.
You can put your answer into their AI, and it will check it against the job description and make sure you're hitting all the key points.
Yeah.
It's like having a personal editor.
Yeah, that's great.
For your interview answers.
Okay.
Pretty cool.
So now let's talk about how to make sure that your work is accurate.
Yes. Accuracy is crucial in GIS. It's all about data integrity.
Okay, so the question they might ask is, how do you ensure the accuracy and reliability of GIS data and analysis?
I like this one.
So this one's really about showing how detail-oriented you are.
Yes. Attention to detail is key here.
Yeah. And that you're committed to quality.
Absolutely.
So you have to have a system
you need
for making sure that your work is reliable.
You need a process.
Okay. So what are some things that people can talk about?
Well, first you want to show them that you understand data quality issues.
Okay.
What can go wrong and what the consequences are.
If the data's wrong.
Exactly. If the data's wrong.
It could be bad.
It could be bad.
Yeah.
So then you want to walk them through your process.
Okay.
Do you double check your data entry? Do you compare your results to other sources?
Okay.
Do you use validation tools within the software?
All right. Be specific. So what are some examples of like really concrete steps?
Okay. So you could talk about using queries to find outliers or running topology checks to find geometric errors.
Okay.
Or you could talk about comparing your data to things like aerial imagery or field surveys.
Yeah.
The point is to show that you have a process for finding and fixing mistakes.
And don't forget documentation.
Oh, yes. Documentation is important.
Yeah.
You want to be able to show that your work is transparent.
Right.
And that other people can understand it.
And reproduce it.
Exactly.
Okay.
So you want to talk about things like metadata standards or keeping a project log or even using version control.
All right.
Those are all good things to mention.
So before we go to the next question, I want to go back to the RoleCatcher Career Guide.
All right.
It mentioned that it's really important to keep learning in this field.
The GIS world is constantly changing.
Right.
New technologies and techniques are always coming out.
So how can someone show that they're committed to learning in an interview?
Well, you could mention specific publications you read.
Okay.
Like Arc News or Jim International. Or you could talk about conferences you've attended, or even online courses or webinars you've taken.
So anything that shows that you're trying to stay up to date?
Exactly. You want to show that you're proactive.
Yeah.
And that you're invested in your own development.
And the career guide actually recommended pursuing certifications.
Oh, yeah. Certifications are great.
Okay, so how can those help?
Well, certifications like the GISP or the CMS show that you're committed to professional standards.
Yeah.
And they give you a competitive edge when you're applying for jobs.
That's like a stamp of approval.
It is. It's a stamp of approval that you have the knowledge and skills.
That you know what you're doing.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's get to another question then.
All right, sure.
This one is, how do you stay up to date with the latest GIS technologies and trends?
Yeah, that's a good one.
So this is all about your passion for the field.
Yeah, you want to show them that you're excited about GIS and that you want to learn and adapt.
But it's not enough to just say, I read this.
Exactly. You have to show them how you apply it to your work.
So what are some things people can talk about?
Well, have you used a new GIS technique on a recent project?
Right.
Have you used a new software tool to improve your workflow?
Okay.
Have you shared your knowledge with your colleagues?
Yeah, so something to show that you're not just learning it, but you're applying it.
Yes. You're not just passively absorbing information.
Yeah.
You're actively using it to make a difference.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So now let's talk about a question that's really focused on how you use GIS to help people make decisions.
Yeah, this is a good one.
Okay, so this one is, can you describe how you've used GIS to support decision-making in a specific project or context?
So for this one, you want to pick a project where your GIS analysis actually led to a decision or to a positive outcome.
So some examples.
Yeah, give me some examples.
Maybe you helped a city plan a new park.
Okay.
Or you helped a company choose where to put a new store. Or maybe you helped an environmental organization look at the impact of a new development.
Yeah, those are all great examples.
So whatever you choose, you want to walk them through your process.
Yeah, walk them through it step by step.
Yeah, and highlight the data sources you used, the tools and techniques, and especially the results.
Yes, the results are key.
Yeah, and don't forget to tell a story.
Oh, yeah, storytelling is so important.
Yeah.
You want to paint a picture for the interviewer. Use vivid language and example. Don't just say, I made a map.
Yeah.
Tell them what the map showed.
And how it helped people.
Exactly how it helped people make decisions.
And what the impact was.
Yes, the impact is what they want to hear about.
Yeah, and I'm sure they'll ask some follow-up questions about this.
They love follow-up questions.
Yeah, so what could they ask?
Well, they might ask, what did you learn from this experience?
Okay.
They want to see that you can reflect and identify areas for improvement.
So be prepared to talk about what you learned.
Right, both technically and in terms of like project management and teamwork and how you've grown.
So be ready to talk about how you've improved as a GIS professional.
Exactly.
Okay, before we jump into the next set of questions, I want to touch on one more thing from the RoleCatcher Career Guide.
Yeah.
And that is networking.
Oh, yeah. Networking is crucial.
Yeah. Why is that so important?
Well, it's about building relationships, exchanging knowledge, and staying connected to opportunities.
Yeah, and the guide specifically recommended checking out organizations like the American Association of Geographers.
Oh, yeah, the AG is a great resource.
So what can people get out of that?
Well, you can connect with other GIS professionals. You can go to conferences and workshops.
Okay.
And you can learn about industry trends.
Yeah.
It's a great way to stay connected and to learn from other people.
And don't forget about online platforms like LinkedIn.
Oh, yeah. LinkedIn is essential.
That's a great way to connect with people, find jobs.
Yeah.
And show off your skills.
It's your online resume.
Exactly.
Basically.
Okay. So that was a lot of really good advice.
Yeah, we covered a lot.
Yeah. But I think there's still more to come.
Oh, yeah. Definitely stay tuned.
Okay.
We've got more to share. Okay, so let's get back to those interview questions.
Okay, sounds good.
We've talked about your technical skills and your problem-solving skills and how you make sure your work is accurate.
Yep.
Now it's time to show them how you keep everything organized.
Yeah, because GIS can get pretty messy.
Oh, yeah. You're dealing with huge data sets and tons of analysis, and you're working with other people.
You got to have a system.
Yeah, you need a system.
Okay, so what's the question they might ask about this?
They might ask something like, How do you manage and organize GIS data and workflows?
Okay.
And what tools or systems do you use?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, so this is all about showing them that you're organized
Right.
and that you can handle complex projects.
Like, it's almost like you have a really well-organized toolbox.
Exactly.
You don't want to be scrambling around looking for the right tool.
We're using the wrong version of a file.
Exactly.
Yeah. You don't want that.
So what are some things people can talk about?
Well, think about your file names. Are they clear? Are they consistent?
Right.
What about your metadata? Do you keep it up to date? And your folder structure?
Yeah.
Is it logical?
Right.
Does it make sense?
Is it easy to find things?
Exactly. Can you find things?
Yeah.
Can other people find things?
Yeah, that makes sense.
And don't forget about version control.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
The career guide actually mentioned that.
It did.
Yeah, they said it's especially important for working with other people.
So why is that?
Well, version control helps you track changes.
Okay.
And it helps you avoid overwriting someone else's work.
So like Git.
Yeah, Git's a good example.
Okay.
So if you're familiar with Git or any other version control system, definitely mention that.
So it shows you're a team player.
Yes. It shows you can work with others.
Okay.
And that you care about data integrity.
Okay, so what about other tools for managing projects?
Oh, yeah. There are a bunch of tools out there.
Like that.
Well, you could mention ArcGIS Pro. That's good for project management. Or you could talk about cloud storage, like Dropbox or Google Drive.
Yeah.
Those are good for backup and sharing.
Okay, so just remember, don't just list the tools.
Right.
Explain how you've used them.
Exactly. Give specific examples from your own work.
Now let's talk about spatial analysis.
Okay.
This is where things get really interesting.
Yeah. This is the heart of GIS.
Okay, so the question might be something like,
Okay.
can you describe your experience with spatial analysis and modeling? And what techniques have you used?
Yeah, this is where you really show off your analytical skills.
Yeah, because you're not just making maps anymore.
Right, you're using GIS to answer questions.
Yeah, it's almost like you're a detective.
Yeah, I like that.
But instead of clues, you're using data.
You're using maps and data.
Yeah, to solve mysteries.
To solve spatial mysteries.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So how do you choose which techniques to talk about?
Well, first, you want to think about the job you're applying for.
Okay.
Do your research on the company and see what kind of projects they do.
So like if it's an environmental company, they might be interested in.
Right. They might want to hear about suitability analysis or watershed delineation.
Got it.
But if it's a transportation company, they might be more interested in network analysis.
Got it.
Or route optimization.
So it's all about tailoring your answer to what they're looking for.
You want to show them that you have the skills that they need.
Okay. So for our listeners who might not be familiar with these techniques, can you give us a quick overview?
Sure. Let's start with interpolation.
Okay.
So imagine you have a bunch of points.
Okay.
And each point has an elevation value.
Okay.
Interpolation helps you figure out the elevation values in between those points.
So it's like filling in the gaps.
Exactly. It's like connecting the dots
Okay.
to create a continuous surface.
Okay, so what about buffer analysis?
Buffer analysis is good for creating zones around features.
Okay.
So let's say you want to find all the areas that are within a certain distance of a river. You would use buffer analysis for that.
So you can see like which areas are at risk of flooding.
Exactly. You could identify flood zones.
Okay.
Or you could find all the areas that are within walking distance of a school.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, what about overlay analysis?
Overlay analysis is all about combining different layers of data.
Okay.
So let's say you have a map of soil types.
Okay.
And you have another map of land use. You can overlay those maps to find areas that are suitable for agriculture.
So you're basically looking for areas that have the right soil and the right land use.
Exactly.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
And what about network analysis?
Network analysis is all about
understanding how things move within a network.
For like roads.
Yeah, like roads or pipelines or even social networks.
Okay.
You can use network analysis to find the shortest route between 2 points.
Okay.
Or to figure out where the bottlenecks are.
Got it.
It's a really powerful tool.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So those are just some examples of spatial analysis techniques.
And remember, don't just define the techniques.
Right.
Talk about how you've used them.
Give specific examples.
Yes, give examples from your own work.
And RoleCatcher can help you here, too.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
How so?
Their AI can analyze your answers and make sure you're hitting all the key points and using the right keywords.
So it's like having a personal tutor.
Yeah, it's like having a
for your interview.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's move on to a question that's all about communication.
Because you could be the best GIS analyst in the world.
Right.
But if you can't explain your work to other people, it doesn't really matter.
It's true.
Okay, so the question might be something like,
okay,
how do you communicate GIS results and analysis to non-technical stakeholders? And what strategies have you found effective?
This is a really important question.
Yeah, because you're not always going to be talking to other GIS people.
Right, you might have to talk to city council members or business executives or community groups.
And they're not going to understand all the technical stuff.
Exactly. They don't have a GIS background.
So you have to be able to explain things in a way that they can understand.
You have to be a translator.
Yeah.
You have to take complex data and turn it into something that everyone can understand.
So it's almost like you're telling a story.
It is like storytelling.
With data.
With data.
So what are some strategies that people can use?
Well, one of the best strategies is to use visuals.
Okay.
Instead of showing them a bunch of numbers, show them a map.
Okay.
Or a chart. Or a graph.
Okay.
Something that they can see.
Yeah.
And understand.
And make it visual.
And also remember to tell a story.
Yes. Storytelling is key.
You want to make the data come alive.
Exactly. You want to make it engaging.
Yeah.
You want to make them care.
So are there any tips on how to tailor your communication style?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Okay. Like what?
Well, first you have to know your audience.
Oh, okay.
If you're talking to engineers, you can be more technical.
Okay.
But if you're talking to a community group,
right,
you need to keep it simple.
Yeah. And focus on how it affects them.
Exactly. Focus on the impact.
Okay.
And always be ready for questions.
Right.
Be prepared to explain things in a way that everyone can understand.
And when you're answering this question in the interview, make sure to give specific examples.
Yes, always give examples.
Yep. Tell them about a time when you successfully communicated GIS results. Did you create a map that helped a city council make a decision?
Okay.
Did you give a presentation that convinced a company to invest in a new GIS system?
Got it. So just be ready with those examples.
Yeah, be ready to tell your story.
And you can practice this.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
By presenting your work to people who don't know anything about GIS.
Yes. That's a great way to practice.
Yeah, like your friends or family.
Yeah, or your colleagues.
And ask them for feedback.
Exactly. Ask them if they understood.
And RoleCatcher can help here, too.
Oh, yeah. Their AI can give you feedback on your communication skills.
Okay, so it's like having a coach.
Yeah, it's like having a communication coach.
For your interview.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so we've talked about a lot of tough interview questions.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground.
And skills that you need to succeed as a GIS specialist.
But before we wrap up, we should circle back to RoleCatcher.
Okay, so how can RoleCatcher's AI help you?
Well, remember all those interview questions we talked about?
Yeah.
RoleCatcher can actually help you tailor your answers, specifically for a GIS specialist role.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Their AI analyzes your responses, identifies areas for improvement, and even suggests keywords or phrases that might resonate with hiring managers.
So it's like having a personal coach.
It's like having a coach who knows exactly what employers are looking for.
That's really cool.
And they also have a feature where you can practice your answers on video and get feedback on your delivery.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So you can record yourself answering those tough questions, and the AI will analyze your facial expressions, your tone of voice, your body language, and give you personalized tips.
So it's like a mock interview?
It is like a virtual mock interview.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And don't forget about their resume builder.
Oh, yeah, the resume builder?
That's a good one.
So how does that help?
Well, it scores your resume against job descriptions.
Okay.
And helps you highlight the right skills.
Okay.
So you're not just submitting a generic resume.
Right.
You're using data to make sure it's tailored to each job.
That's really smart.
Yeah, it's a great way to stand out.
Okay, so now let's go back to the career guide for some final tips.
Sounds good.
So if you want to really boost your career, you should consider getting certified.
Yeah, certifications are a great way to show employers that you have the skills and knowledge they need.
So which certifications are we talking about?
Well, the GISP.
Okay.
and the CMS are two of the most popular ones.
And those are like proof that you know what you're doing.
They're like a stamp of approval.
Yeah.
They show that you're committed to professional standards.
Okay, and we talked about networking earlier.
Yeah, networking is so important, especially in GIS.
And the guide specifically recommended the American Association of Geographers.
Yeah, the AG.
Okay, so what can you get out of that?
Well, you can connect with other GIS professionals, go to conferences, attend workshops, stay up to date on industry trends.
It's all about building those relationships and learning from each other.
And the guide also mentions some new technologies.
Okay, like
things like 3D printing and machine learning.
So these are changing the GIS world.
Yeah, they're really transforming the field.
Wow. So that's something to think about.
Yeah, definitely something to keep in mind.
As you're starting your GIS career, how can you incorporate those advancements into your work?
That's a great question to ask yourself.
All right, so I think that wraps it up for this deep dive.
Yeah, I think we covered everything.
So we talked about interview questions.
We talked about skills.
How to use RoleCatcher.
We talked about certifications and the future of GIS.
So if you're preparing for a GIS specialist interview, I think you're in good shape.
You've got all the tools you need.
Just remember to be confident.
Be prepared.
And be yourself.
And good luck.
Yeah, good luck.